Good morning and welcome to another amazing day of ELA. I'm so happy to have you here and we are getting right back into Rogue Wave, okay? So we have had a lot of things happen, okay? We have talked about the Rogue Wave, we have talked about Scoot and Sully, we have talked about the boat flipping, Scoot who is blacked out, or who got blacked out or got knocked in the head to get blacked out, right, is in a really bad situation. Sully is having a really hard time with this whole situation, knowing his sister is not in a good position. So a lot of us and our different periods kind of ended in at a little bit of different places, but I'm going to use this. If you didn't read this part yet, that's okay. Follow along with me. If you did read this part, we're going to use this as a quick review before we really get into it, okay? So we're going to start at little number 20, okay? He fought back tears of frustration. There was no way to reach Scoot, and he knew what would happen down there. The water would slowly and inevitably rise until the air pocket was only 6 inches. Her head would be trapped between the surface of the water and the dirty bilge. The water would torture her, then it would drown her. Seawater has no heart, no brain. The sea dog would drop to the ocean floor thousands of feet down, entombing her forever. Maybe the best hope for poor Scoot was that she was already dead. But he had to determine whether she was still alive. He began pounding on the hull with the bottom of his fist, waiting for a return knock. At the same time, he shouted her name over and over. Nothing but silence from inside there. He'd wish he'd hung on to the silly scrub brush. The wooden handle would make more noise than the flesh of his fist. Almost half an hour passed, and he finally broke down and sobbed. His right fist was bloody from the constant pounding. Why hadn't he gone below to make the stupid sandwiches? Scoot would have been at the wheel, and when the wave grasped the sea dog, his young sister, with all her life to live, would still be alive now. They'd had a good brother and sister relationship. He'd teased her a lot about being pint-sized, and she'd tease back, holding her nose when he brought one girl or another home for display. She'd always been spunky. He'd taken her sailing locally in the Channel, but she wanted an offshore cruise for her 14th birthday. Now she had one, unfortunately. Her father had nicknamed her Scoot because as a baby she'd crawl so fast. It was still a fitting name for her as a teenager. With a wiry body, she was fast in tennis, swimming, and already the school's champion in the 100-yard dash. So, we're going to pause there because, again, for those of us who have already done this, this is just going to be a review. I don't know if you can see it. I'm going to move this a little bit. Okay, so this question, right? When the narrator has interrupted the forward progress of the story to go back and talk about something from the past, you found a memory moment signpost. In paragraphs 23 and 24, highlight memories Sully has about Scoot. And then the question is, why might these be important? So again, take a quick moment, make sure that you have these things highlighted in your book or underlined. Okay, annotate for those. So pause the screen if you need to, but I'm gonna move on. Okay, why might these be important? And again, some of you may have done this, but make sure if you don't have this in your book, this is on page 141, okay? So just making sure that we're on the bottom of 141. This is the question, okay, memory moment. Why might these memories be important? They may be important. You see that? Because Sully remembers Scoot as fast and athletic, These qualities, okay, may give Sully hope that Scoot will survive. Okay, so if you need to pause to get this down, go ahead and do so. But this memory of him being like, Scoot was super spunky, she didn't just roll over, she wouldn't give up, she was fast, she is athletic, right, is giving him hope that if she is down there and she's okay, that she's not going to give up. She's going to be determined to get out, and maybe with her athleticism and her strength and her mental ability to never give up in these situations, okay, and keep going, that maybe Scoot will be able to survive, okay? So it gives Sully hope when he's remembering her in this way. All right, go ahead and pause if you need to get this down. We're going to go back to the story. So we're in 25. Eyes closed, teeth clenched, he kept pounding away with the bloody fist. Finally, he went back to the ocean to try once more to open the doors. He sucked air, took half a dozen deep breaths, and then dove again. Bracing his feet against the companionway frames, he felt every muscle straining. But the doors remained jammed. He was also now aware that if they did open, more water would rush in, and he might not be able to find Scoot in the blackness to pull her out. But he was willing to take the gamble. Scoot awakened as water seeped into her mouth and nose. For a moment, she could not understand where she was, how she'd got there, what had happened. Vaguely, she remembered the boat slanting deeply downward as if it were suddenly diving, and she remembered feeling her body going up. That's all she remembered, and all she knew at the moment was that she had a fierce headache and was in chill water in total darkness. It took a little longer to realize she was trapped in the Sea Dog's cabin by the galley alcove. She began to feel around herself and touch floating things. The air was thick with an oil smell. Then she ran her hand over the nearest solid thing, a bulkhead. That's strange, she thought. Her feet were touching a pot. She lifted her right arm and felt above her. The galley range. The galley range above her? Okay, galley range. Range is a stove. Okay, so she's feeling the ceiling at her feet and what should be at her feet in the ceiling. So again, because the boat flipped. So the galley range above her, the boat was upside down. She felt for the companionway steps and found the entry doors pushed on them. That was the way she'd come in. The doors didn't move. Sully crawled up the wide hull again, clinging to a faint hope that the boat or ship would soon come by. But the sun was already in descent and the night coming on. Chances of rescue lessened with each long minute. It was maddening to have her a few feet away and be helpless to do anything. Meanwhile, the hull swayed gently in an eerie silence. Okay? This is a super important paragraph here in paragraph 28, okay? Because we have this a really interesting scene as well as a little bit of discouragement here. So it brings us to this question over here. I'll move us here over here. So in paragraph 28, highlight details that describe the setting. Okay, so what details here describe the setting? Let's go with blue. Okay, so we have Sully crawled up on the wide hull again. Okay, the sun was already setting. Okay, it was already in descent. So thinking that if this kind of happened in the afternoon, right? Thinking, hey, it's light outside, the sun is out, okay, no one's getting like hypothermia because of the cold yet, right? Someone might come, another boat might come, see them flipped over and help them, right? But the sun was already in descent, so the sun is already setting, okay? And with night coming on, okay? And this is the important thing, is that, we'll get to that in a sec. The hull swayed, the hull swayed gently in eerie silence. Now, eerie was one of our vocab words, okay? Which kind of means creepy, right? So we have Sully crawling back on the top of the flipped over boat. We have the sun setting, it's already in descent, night is coming, and the boat just is swaying in this eerie silence, even in this dire situation. Part of the issue being, okay, chances of rescue lessened with each long minute. So as night comes, okay, and as it gets closer, people are not going to be sailing their boats, right? So this is getting to be a really bad situation, not only for Scoot, as the water is coming into the boat, she only has a limited amount of time. Also, Sully is just floating out there in the ocean, okay, with no protection. So all of this stuff is describing for us the setting here. So underline these things in your book or highlight them. Pause if you need to, but we are in little number 28. Okay, I'm going to get rid of this and we're going to answer the question. So, how do these details add tension to the central conflict? Okay, so how do these details about Sully being there, about it becoming nighttime now, the sun is setting, the likelihood that another boat's going to come by is going down and down, right? And then there's just this eerie, creepy, bad feeling silence as the boat just kind of is there, kind of floating in the waves, right? With no sound, okay? So why is this adding tension, or how is this adding tension? There's a lot that was happening in that paragraph, right? So the details tells us that night is falling, right? The sun is going down, their boat has flipped, they have no lights to signal, okay? Even if for whatever reason someone was coming, okay, they have no way to signal somebody else, okay? This adds tension because it's unlikely that a ship will just be able to see them even if one was out there, right? So there's no real chance of rescue right now. The eerie silence shows how alone they are and what danger, I should say dangerous. If not, that's what I meant to say. Dangerous. There we go. What dangerous position they're in. So the eerie silence shows how alone they are and what dangerous position they're in, right? Because Scoot is still stuck down there. Sully, even though he has literally a bloody fist from pounding to try to get her attention or to try to signal that he's there, see if she's alive, right? Nothing is happening. So there's this like creepy silence here that kind of builds the mood for us, okay? So we're very still in an anxious mood. So if you need to pause to get that down and make sure you have that filled in, again, this is the question on page 142. 142 is this question, okay? And again, make sure that you're keeping up with these, because these, once we're done with the story, are going to go in for a grade. And because there's a lot more questions, because it's a longer story, it's going to be a little bit of a bigger grade than our normal book questions, okay? Let's see if we can just get a little further here. So we're gonna start back up on, we were just in 28. So we're gonna start up in little number 29, okay? Just a little bit longer, stay with me. Scoot said tentatively, Sully, maybe he'd been drowned. Maybe she was alone and would die here in the foul water. She repeated his name much more loudly. No answer. She was coming out of shock now, and fear, icier than the water, was replacing her confusion. To die completely alone? It went that way for a few desperate moments, and then she said to herself, Scoot, you've got to get yourself out of here. There has to be some way to get out. So in this moment here, we're not going to pause here for very long, but, right, Scoot is finally kind of coming to it, right? She was a little fuzzy because she did get knocked out, but she's thinking, did he drown? Like, she's trying to remember where everyone was, what was happening, right? Did he get knocked off of the boat and drowned? We don't know, or she doesn't know, we know. So she's calling out for him. She repeats his name, no answer. Okay, so she was coming out of the shock, right? And then she gets that wave of fear as this realization hits her. To die completely alone? It went that way for a few desperate moments, and then she said to herself, Scoot, you've got to get out of here. There has to be some way to get out. So we have this moment that Sully may have been right here. So that Sully, as he's remembering her with this athleticism, with this determination, we see she does have this, right? She's not just going to give up. She's not just going to roll over. She is going to do her best to get out. So let's continue here. Sully clung to the keel with one hand, his body flat against the smooth surface of the hull. There was ample room on either side of the keel before the dead rise. The upward slope of the hull. The Sea Dog had a beam of 10 feet unless a wind and waves came up. He was safe enough in his wet perch. Okay, so thinking again that knowing that the boat is flipped over, there it goes, okay? So here's like the boat. I keep doing this the wrong way, but okay, you get the idea. And the keel, right, to keep the boat up. And like, you know, the water is like here, right? Scoot's in here. And Sully is kind of here on top of the boat, right? And if the waves were to get really big and come up, he might be in a dangerous position. But for right now, he's just kind of chilling up there. Scoot again wondered if her brother had survived and if he was still around the boat or on it. With her right foot, she began to probe around the space underneath her. The pot had drifted away, but her toes felt what seemed to be flatware. That made sense. The drawer and the knives and forks and spoons had popped out, spilling its contents. She took a deep breath and ducked under to pick out a knife. Coming up, she held the knife blade, reaching skyward for the handle. Eyes closed, brain mushy, exhausted, Sully heard a faint tapping and raised up his elbow to make sure he wasn't dreaming. No, there was tapping from below. He crawled back toward what he thought was the source area, the galley area, and put an ear to the hull. She was tapping. He pounded the fiberglass, yelling, Scoot! 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 Scoot heard the pounding and called out, Sully, I'm here! I'm here! Her voice seemed to thunder in the air pocket. Sully yelled, Can you hear me? Sully could only hear the pounding. Help me out of here! Ears still to the hull, Sully shouted again, Scoot, can you hear me? No answer. Pounding again and repeating, Scoot, can you hear me? No answer. The hull was too thick, and the slop of the sea and the moan of the afternoon breeze didn't help. Though she She couldn't hear his voice. The mere fact that he was up there told her she could escape. Sully had gotten her out of jams before. There was no one on earth she'd rather have as a rescue man than her oldest brother. She'd absolutely knew she'd survive. Though it might be fruitless, Sully yelled down to the galley alcove, "Listen to me, Scoot. You'll have to get out by yourself. I can't help you. I can't break in. Listen to me. I know you're in water, and the best way out is through the skylight. You've got to dive down and open it. You're small enough to go through it." She could go through either section of the butterfly window. "Tap twice if you heard me." She did not respond. He repeated what he just said, word for word. No response. No taps from below. Scoot couldn't understand why he didn't just swim down and open the doors to the cabin, release her. That's all he needed to do. She'd be free. Sully looked up at the sky. "Please, God, help me, help us." It was almost unbearable to know she was alive, and he was unable to do anything for her. Then he made the decision to keep repeating, "Listen to me, Scoot. You'll have to get out by yourself. I can't break in. Listen to me. The best way out is through the skylight. You've got to dive down and open it. You're small enough to go through it." Okay, so that is little number 44. We are going to stop there, okay? So when you've reached this, okay, I'm going to be giving every single one of you a little sticky note, and I don't have one near me, but I'm going to give you a sticky note, okay? When you get to this point in the video, I want you to pause, okay? You listening? We're together? We got this? You got me? Okay, I'm going to give you a sticky note. You're going to write down what you think is going to happen next on that sticky note, okay? I'm going to have a spot in the room for you to post it up on, okay? So once we get to little number 44, I want you to think, what is going to happen next, okay? Based on what I know in the story so far, based on what I know about stories in general, okay? What do you think is going to happen next in the story, okay? So I'm going to have you write that down on a sticky note and post it up in this place that I have in the room, okay? So the story is getting really exciting. I hope you're enjoying it so far, okay? So once you have that sticky note, we're done for the day. All right, have a great day. Be good. Bye, guys.